The DJI OSMO 6 has been totally overhauled compared to the previous generation, as the button layout is totally different. So if you're upgrading from an older model to the new one, you may be confused, but don't worry, I have your back, as I'm gonna go ahead and cover all the new changes, some cool tips and tricks, and there's a complete list of all the shortcuts that these buttons can do. Going over everything you need to know about the brand new DJI OSMO 6. Now when you compare it against the older gimbal model from DJI, you may have noticed it is slightly taller, but aside from that, everything else is almost the same. Just however, there's now a new locking mechanism to securely lock your gimbal when you fold it and store it away. And once you have it all assembled, when you pair it against the brand new iPhone 14 Pro with that new deep black, you have to admit, it does look stealthy. Now it still uses the regular USB-C to charge the gimbal, and the battery life is said to be able to last up to 6.3, so 6 hours and 30 minutes operating time. The more capacity can withstand a payload up to 290 grams, and although it's still using a very similar clamp like it used to, it's actually slightly larger and bigger, which means it can now support your case, well, majority of phone cases. But I have noticed from my personal experience, for the best performance, it's best just to remove the case entirely. Other new changes is that it does have the latest Bluetooth, as this one actually is paired and equipped with Bluetooth 5.1, which means a more stable connection than ever before. And then just like the older model, it does indeed include the extension ability with the capability to adjust the arm, as you see right here. And when you combo that with the included tripod, it actually works as a nice extension, so will definitely help you get those selfie shots. Now with specs and other things out of the way, I'm gonna go ahead and show you how you could definitely utilize this gimbal to its full potential with these amazing shortcuts you could do with the brand new button layout. Now to set up the gimbal, new this year is now you actually have a lock-in mechanism, as I previously stated. So you just simply do that, and now it's unlocked. And now you have the capability to unfold, and then it will also automatically turn on. And if you'd like to go ahead and disengage that, just hold down the M button, as this will allow you to override the on and off. But new this year is that you can actually assemble and put together your gimbal without having to actually turn off the gimbal. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this aside, and using an iPhone 14 Pro and the brand new and improved DJI OSMO clip, it's much larger than ever before. As I previously said, you can use an iPhone case or a phone case on your device and place the clamp on. But I don't recommend doing that, because for the best performance, it's best just to do it with your phone being bare. So just simply attach to your iPhone just like so. Make sure that the camera icon is pointing the direction where your phone is. And then what I like to do is utilize the Apple logo on an iPhone and use that as a center point for the iPhone. Take our gimbal, this little white dot will indicate the direction to attach the clamp. And notice, new this year is that this part is actually a little sensor, allowing the gimbal to understand when you attach or disattach your iPhone. So go ahead and clamp it together. Right now it's on standby mode. Tap any button to resume. And just like that, the gimbal is engaged and our iPhone is stable. Now if you do notice that your gimbal is kind of off, like it's not properly aligned, a pro tip would be to launch the DJI OSMO app, assuming you already went through the whole setup procedure, make sure your gimbal is all updated and such. If you notice that the gimbal is not leveled properly, take the included tripod. Place the gimbal on a nice flat level surface, and on the DJI Go app, tap on those 3 dots on the lower portion of the display. This menu will then pop up, and just tap calibrate under the gimbal auto calibration, and just tap start. Let the gimbal do its thing, and it's going to self-level itself. During this process, don't touch the gimbal, and this should take less than a minute. If everything works out well, you should see this screen. Now, if that still doesn't work, the next step would be to make sure your phone itself is leveled. So for this portion, just make sure you hold down on the mode button. This will turn off the gimbal. This way, you can actually easily readjust it. So if it doesn't balance by itself like this when the gimbal is turned off, that means it's not centrally balanced. And if you see it doing this, that means it's also not centrally balanced. So just slide your phone around until you get to the sweet spot. So when you leave it on landscape mode, it actually is self-balanced. As you see right here, the pros of having it perfectly balanced means the engine will be less worked, so your gimbal itself will run more energy efficient. And now just hold down the M button to power it back on, and it should automatically balance itself. Now if it's still off by a little, you can actually override this by manually adjusting it by going into the Into the same 3-dot section on the menu, make sure the gimbal is selected and tap on the section where it says horizontal gimbal adjustment. Here you can actually manually override the gimbal, as it will give you a leveler on your display. Tap OK and just add plus to whatever section that you feel like deserves to be adjusted. And then once you're done, tap done and you're good to go. This works especially well when you attach the brand new DJI mic or other DJI OSMO attachments, which are also available when DJI promotes this. So this is a method that I recommend everybody should at least know if you're using the DJI mic or some sort of an accessory on your device. Now with the new button layout, the shortcuts, the things that these buttons can do, the quick rundown is this. Obviously the joystick is just a joystick, so it will actually allow you to pivot your camera to the direction you select. And then on the side, so long as you're using the Mimo app from DJI, if you scroll up, it'll zoom in and zoom out. And if you actually click on the side once, this will switch from zoom to focus. And you have the capability to adjust the focus right here on the fly. And the screen does adjust and update, as it will give you the focus slider right here visually. And yes, this works on all modes, video and photos. Now the next button is the shutter button. When you press on this, it will actually take a photo or video depending on the mode you're selecting. And if you press and hold on photo mode, it will actually do a burst. And there's more. If you actually go on the main app for camera, so our iPhone camera app, most of these things we just covered also is compatible. So obviously you can still move the gimbal around with the joystick, but the shutter button, if you tap on it, so long as it's paired with Bluetooth, you can take a photo, and if you long press, it will do a burst. And if you switch to video mode, you can also control the video record button from the main button on the DJI controller. So you have that access right here. And then if you want to quickly switch from portrait mode, as we have right now, to landscape mode, just tap the little circle arrow icon. And you can actually quickly pivot the screen just like so. So you can pivot the camera on the go by simply tapping this button once. In addition to that, if you like to pivot it manually, you can actually do that manually by simply just using your finger. You can actually rotate the position of the camera just like this. The gimbal will know what you're doing and will automatically self-adjust itself. And if you're having a hard time getting the exact position with the joystick, you can actually force move the gimbal like so. Don't worry, this is actually recommended and advised by DJI. The gimbal can actually handle this. All the other gimbals that DJI produced, even the DJI OSMO 5, all had this recommendation. And then as for the trigger in the back, a double tap will actually recenter the gimbal. So if it's off, double tapping will make it go back to in the center automatically. So just double tap, it'll automatically recenter itself. And then if you long press, this will actually lock the gimbal, so actually it will stay at that position where you last left it. So if we do it one more time and holding it, you notice that the gimbal stays in place for our iPhone. And whenever you leave your gimbal like this on a flat surface, it may freak out, but if you just leave it by itself, it actually self-deactivates itself and goes into standby mode, which is quite interesting. This is a new feature, and to reactivate it, just tap any button and it'll automatically wake back up. Now for the icons down here. Right now it's green, and basically the important colors to remember is basically this. If it's pulsing red, basically it will just tell you that the magnets are not aligned. If it's a solid yellow, Bluetooth is disconnected. Solid green will basically tell you that Bluetooth is indeed connected. If it's pulsed yellow or green, it means it's in standby mode. If it blinks red or green, that means it's either firmware updating, or the firmware update has failed. If it's a solid red, DJI listed as an abnormal status detected. In other words, your phone's probably not connected to the gimbal. That's from my personal experience. And then down below are the different levels of the battery life indicator. Feel free to pause this, but this gives you an overview of what each color will mean when it's at a certain battery life percentage. And one small thing I almost forgot to mention, a single tap and quickly hold will actually increase the speed of the gimbal on the go, and just let go and it'll go back to normal for those action sport shots. Now as for the mode selector, it has 4 different modes. The first one is follow. In this mode, the camera view will actually follow the gimbal pan and tilt movement and stay level during rolls. Then the next one is tilt lock. In this mode, the camera view only follows the gimbal pan movement and stays stable during the tilt and rolls. The next one is FPV. In this mode, all 3 axes of the gimbals follow the movement of the handle, giving you this dynamic filming looking effect. This is perfect for landmarks, building, or statues. And the last one is spin shot. By pushing the joystick to the left or right, this actually rotates the camera to create this dynamic looking rotating footage. And that's it. Now if we actually go in and launch the main DJI Mimo app, we have more things that these buttons can do, additional shortcuts. Now aside from tapping the 2 arrow icons to quickly switch from portrait to landscape mode, if you actually tap once, it will quickly switch from the rear camera to the front and vice versa. And if you'd like to enable the active track capability, just tap once on the trigger and this will automatically lock on the nearby subject of interest. And if you tap on it again, it will disengage tracking capabilities. Then while it's powered on, this is one of the first gimbals that you can actually remove without turning off the gimbal itself, and it won't freak out on you as you just witnessed. And you can reattach it this way as well. And just press any button to reactivate it. Now if you want to put your gimbal on standby mode, just tap the mode button 3 times and it will go into standby mode. This will allow you to actually adjust your gimbal and put it in a new position without using up the battery. And just tap any button to re-enable it like so. And if you'd like to learn more about what the gimbal can do, the QR code right here will take you to DJI Academy. Now for this section of the app, if you're on an iPhone, I highly recommend enabling the auto launch capability, which you could go ahead and have access to right here. Click on here, which looks like the Microsoft logo looks like, and where it says quick launch, enable this. Now next time whenever you attach your gimbal to your iPhone, it will automatically pop up a notification which you could actually go ahead and tap and will quickly launch the DJI Mimo app. Now aside from that, the quick rundown of the whole interface and capability that this app has to offer is basically this. On the top here, you can monitor your iPhone as well as the battery life percentage of the gimbal. And you can see if flash is enabled, HDR, and you got the zoom function on the vertical wheel right here as well. You can actually switch to go back to manual focus mode by tapping the joystick button as I previously showed you. And of course, you can also switch between the front facing camera from this display as well, but I prefer using the shortcut buttons that I was showing you earlier. Then you also got the little different modes you can select from right here: photo, pano, and stories. If you want to quickly create something without using software to edit your video, highly recommend checking out their little short guides they have right here. But in all these different modes, you do have access to gesture control. You could actually go ahead and enable it right here. When this is enabled, you can either do the peace sign or a little high five motion. It will automatically start tracking you. You can allow it to shoot only or follow and shoot. So this is personal preference. With follow and shoot, it will automatically begin tracking and we'll start recording. With shoot only, it will just start recording without the following gesture. And if you have this enabled and you're not using it, this is known to draw more energy. So if you're not using the gesture control, I highly recommend leaving it off to give you more battery life. And then down here, you got the slow motion capabilities, which will show you the resolution as well as the speed rate right here. The dolly zoom effect, this is really cool, especially whenever you lock into something. So you have the choice between a move in or a move out effect. Here's a little video example of how that's like. You simply just lock onto the subject and just follow the on-screen instruction. You're able to create these amazing looking effects. Now time lapse, it's straightforward. It does allow you to create these epic looking time lapse. If you tap the top portion right here, it gives you the capability to adjust the duration. If you want a 3-minute duration with intervals of every 3 seconds or so, you could adjust it from here. You could do a fixed angle, a motion lapse, or create custom motion, which by tapping the plus icon and you move the gimbal around, it will actually save those movements. And once you hit start, it's going to start moving it at those motions and create these type of time lapse. So definitely do play around here. And down here, it will also show your ISO settings as well as your exposure. Hyperlapse, similar thing to motion time lapse, but with hyperlapse, you can actually lock onto a subject. And what I like to do is record that subject while moving around to create this amazing effect. Now in both photos and video, you do have these tools right over here. You can also go from auto to manual settings. So if you want to experiment, you could totally do that. You also have your beauty filter right here. all personal preference, but this is known to like smoothing your skin, lightening your skin tone, brightness. It's weird. Play with this, all personal preference. I don't like messing with it because it makes me look like a Barbie doll. And then if you tap this little 3-dot icon, you also have the capability to adjust more stuff on the frames. If you want to change your frame ratio, you could totally do so. You could enable flash this way as well. If you like the rule of thirds, you could do that with guidelines. I like to leave that off. And then the face tracking selfie, when this is enabled, once you actually go into the front facing camera, it's automatically going to search and track the subject as you see right here. If you don't like that to automatically happen, just disable it right there as we show you. I'm going to switch the camera back so I can give you an example. It no longer will automatically start tracking. Then as for the gimbal settings, here you can actually adjust the gimbal mode. So if you don't want it to be the default, you can always change it to the tilt lock, FPV, or spin lock. And then in the auto calibration, I already went ahead to cover that. The side wheel, you can also change it if you don't want it to automatically zoom or focus. So if you wanted to, as an example, let me just rephrase that. If you wanted to automatically manual zoom, you can select manual zoom, but ours by default, I like to leave it on zoom, or you can have it off in general. And then the press 3 times button, you can also program this to do other things too. Joystick speed, if you like to adjust that, you totally can. If you like to make it faster or slower, you have those options as well right there. Joystick control, I prefer leaving it free, but you can actually make it horizontal if you wish. And then invert joystick, all personal preference. Again, if you want up to be down, you totally can do so. And then you could do a similar thing with invert side wheel direction. You can also allow that to happen as well. Sound, if you don't like your gimbal to always play sound whenever you use it, you have the capability to disable it right there as well. Now the next tab, this will just give you your gimbal more information about your device. Demo mode, you don't need that unless you're a retailer, but just enable the quick launch. That's my tip from the setting icon over here. And on top here, you also have additional shot guides too. If you need an idea what you could shoot, depending on the situation you're in, if you're trying to shoot like a record vlog, you can always tap apply once you view one of these examples. And we'll actually walk you through the settings as well as a more in-depth coverage, how you could accomplish similar shots on the settings you could do with your gimbal, and just tap record. It's really interesting. Highly recommend checking out this because they literally have everything for cities, beach, park, and etc. And then of course, I almost forgot to mention, in case you haven't noticed, you do have video settings you have access to right here. If you want to change the resolution to 4K all the way up to 60, you totally could do that. And of course, you have the capability to manually adjust these things into your manual settings if you wish. And then of course you have beauty filter too. And then the rest of the information on the IO and stuff, it's all down here as well, grayed out. And this little square would be where you could watch your recently recorded or photos that you have captured library. And aside from being a long extension to a selfie stick, if you actually pivot this downwards, you create these interesting close-up shots of the grass as well as an amazing chase scene. So definitely you do utilize the tripod extension, a capability that this gimbal has to offer. And there you guys have it. Now you are a pro when it comes to operating your brand new DJI OSMO 6. If you got some good useful information out of this video, you know what to do. Greatly appreciate it if you could actually leave this video a like, because it'll help me out a lot, and get subscribed, especially if you enjoy a lot of tech videos just like this. Now before I end this video, if you're wondering if it's worth upgrading from the 5 to the 6, it's honestly your choice, because most of the features I covered in today's video are also included in the OSMO 5. It's just you have to memorize those shortcuts, like those mode selectors. You can do that with the OSMO 5 as well. You just have to memorize the shortcuts, how to do so, because there's no screen. You have to rely on the LEDs that it has. So if you'd like to find out more about that, I actually covered the OSMO 5 right over there. You can go ahead and watch that video right after this video. But other than that, DJI really did a great job every year when it comes to improving their gimbal. I like the new clamp mechanism that it has. Allows me to actually use my case when I'm in a hurry. And this cool little display that they placed on here really does allow the user to have a lot of information. And I especially like the new scroll wheel that it has on the side. You can actually zoom in and zoom out with a smoother transition. It's no longer a slider. It's literally a nice wheel that's super smooth and fluid. But other than that, yeah, you are a pro when it comes to operating your brand new OSMO 6. If you'd like to watch more, again, you could go ahead and check out the OSMO 5 video over there in case you're curious to find out what are the capabilities that your unit has and get familiar with its shortcuts. In that video over there, that's just a video YouTube's recommending specifically for you. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. See ya.